Ben go to it.
Kogidula.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tashidele.
How are you, Mata?
Very good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So,
Good.
oh, yeah, good. So, Sangmala, ane Tashidele Mangboyo.
So many tashideles, many the best greetings for everyone.
Ani Yancha to a peck of chansons, huh?
I'm very happy to meet everyone again.
I think Karchiang to check the check on what is Sondange, Kama Juejong as in it is a check. He teaches Travatang, Yan Tinishin Yasamare.
And so we have an hour and a half, right? So I was thinking maybe I will like speak for an hour and an hour, 15 minutes or so. And then we do questions and answers. Would that be good?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that Tangbudi. Ane Madada, that Chiran Judo Samang and Samanyam the Yanker, Kashi Kasang on the Tokyo, Kashi Sarvari, the Count Yansama, and Nematuk Savani, Yanker Trashitele, Yamatuaina, then Sadding on the Togola Gawachon and Sama Trashitilisha.
So some of you already we met before, and some of you we are meeting for the first time today. And so in any way, I want to give my best greetings to everyone and to say Tashdale. I'm very happy to see all of you.
Yeah. I didn't got this on a Chitanda, Karzas on another Kishi Hudi, and the Goyadi, Dekirino Deki.
So most important, what we need, what we want is happiness.
Tambo Kishi Hudi Karzas and Anto Deki Goasonza, Deki say a carre, the Julia of Talam Carriore. Anzo Mogo Dumi, but some Dumi say a carre, this year Talam Carre.
And so first of all, the most important is, since what we want is happiness, so first we need to ask ourselves, what is actually happiness? And what are the ways to accomplish, to attain happiness? And also, since what we don't want is suffering, so we have to ask ourselves, what are the causes of suffering? And what is the way to be free from suffering? So first of all, what is happiness? Happiness is well-being of body and also the joy of the mind. So if we look at the word in Tibetan, it is deki. And so there is the well-being of the body, we can say. We can refer it to the body, saying it's the well-being of the body. And ki, we can refer to the mind, like the happiness or the joy of the mind. So this is what we really want. We want a healthy body, a well-being of body, and also we want to have happiness or joy in the mind. So there is relating to the body. We can relate to the body, saying that this will be the well-being of the body, but it's not enough just to have well-being of body. We also want to have happiness in the mind. We want to have the joy of mind. And so that's the two parts of the key. And then what is suffering? Well, suffering is the opposite. If the body is not well and the mind is unhappy, so that is what we will call suffering. Okay, so what is the way to attain happiness? Well, we need to have two kinds of methods. We need to have methods to attain the well-being of body and also methods to attain the well-being or the happiness of the mind. So what are the methods to have well-being of body? Well, this is different ways of taking care of the body.
Vitamin A, B, C, D.
So different ways to take care of the well-being of the body. For example, to take vitamin A, B, C, and D. So these are the ways to take care of the body, for example.
And on a yellow, not that in the young you, not in the lamsang, not that Ungochia, Chikala, Yaposaya, may yapon, Trotin Yapochia, Megan, Tassi Yam Chia, that to some detail did it.
Also, if if not to have sickness in the body, we can have to eat the good foods which are suitable for the body, and to take different things which make our immune system stronger in order to prevent sicknesses, to take examinations in a hospital and so forth. So we can do these different things to keep the body healthy.
Lu data yoshide lu la choten pen yoshide vera me a b c d yo ve kase kala de so pa tem ba che ane yang lu data no bar chinking ge kar supo na nasada kange zo par ka wa chinking ge kala de yo ba zo na pen na chik sugar da ane kar se so na de kar wa ta ada kar wa ta yang kala chinking so na lu na no ya kala ya ba de so nyong de ta lu na la pe pen to yo ya kala de so mo de ta ma da de che di ko thalam nyong do.
And so when we look at the methods, we have to keep the body healthy, to have the well-being of body. So we can look at it from two sides. One side is taking things which are good for the body, suitable for the body, like taking different vitamins like A, B, C, and D to keep the body healthy. And together with that, also, we try to avoid different kinds of foods, for example, that are bad for the body. For example, like avoiding taking sugar, eating sugar, or like white flour or white rice, since they don't have a lot of nutritional value for the body. So we will try to reduce the different kinds of food, or not to take the foods which are not good for the body.
Oh, that is not simba kibu yung ya la yang simba kibu yung ya gitu so ya drip simba ji karsana tume yung ya gitu par ka she go ya sim de ki yung sim kibu yung chona sim choten ten go ya.
And in the same way, also, if we want to have the well-being of the mind, to have happiness of mind, so just like we treat our body, we should also treat our mind. And everything which is good for our mind, we should definitely bring it in. We should definitely create that within our mind. And everything which is bad for our mind, we should stop it and not create it.
Oh, da karsana lule detang yung ya choten yung ya chi de lu go vitamin A, B, C, D te go na yi sim de ki yung ya chi de yang detang tra ve ga sim ge de chi de yung ya ge eba de karsa vitamin A, B, C, D da sim ge chi de yung ya ge vitamin A, B, C se so na chamba zeba shirap sopa chohi duzore.
And so, like we treat the body and we take things which are good for the body, like vitamin A, B, and C, and D, also we do the same for the mind. And we bring to the mind the things which will really bring happiness and peace to the mind. And what are the things like this will be like the vitamin A, B, C, D of the mind. So what is the vitamin A, B, C, D of the mind? So these are states of mind, like love and compassion, like wisdom, understanding, contentment. So these different states of mind, which really brings peace and happiness to the mind.
Seva, Shira, Sosin, Samshi. What is Simbakoyan Bocha, the Tablam, the Sim Teki Yagata, Carson Yuyahuter, Zuta, Nimatapakal, Kalikomjitan, Kansana, Vedami ABC, Nimatapar, this Vedamis is under protection Sayori, the Naji, and Nimatapa, Simbi, Carses on the Chambatan, Seva, Shira, Zosin, the Zoya, Yajitan Moyer.
And so basically we work with the mind in a similar way to the way we work with the body, because just like in order to keep our body healthy, we will try to bring things which are good for the body, like bringing the vitamin A, B, C, D and, to the body to keep the body healthy. So in a similar way, also for the mind, we have the vitamin A, B, C, D of the mind, and we will try to bring to the mind things like love and caring, things like patience and understanding, And these are sins which really benefit the mind. They really bring peace and happiness to the mind. And that's why we need to develop them and to keep increasing them on a daily basis, slowly.
다다는 이 가르쳐는 룰레 먼저 노약에 가르쳐서는 칼라 닝바당 르바당 안에 칼라 독샤 다가나 콘드 휴바나이다 지 가르쳐는 제 휴가당 되게 룰레 맞춰베겠다 카이시마모도 저 파 칼리칼리 뇽당 자바네 파카고와나지 안에 가서 셈라양 가르쳐서는 강에져야지 공투 셰당 차도 전선 안에 심지 가산 추비클로 어디서 정말 되는 셈라다 강에져야 봐서다 저 칼리칼리 뇽당 파
And again, like in a similar way, like we take care of the body. So in order for our body to stay healthy and well, we really try to avoid different kinds of food which are bad for the body. And so we will try to avoid foods which are rotten, and we will try to avoid the foods which are old. And also, like I said before, we will try to avoid like sugar and so forth. And so, or, like white flour and so forth. So we will try to avoid these sins because we know it's bad for our body. And in the same way, also when it comes to our mind. And so that which is similar to the like bad foods for the body are negative states of mind, like jealousy and anger, competitiveness and pride. So these, for example, these states of mind are not good for our mind. They create suffering, they create trouble for our mind. And that's why we should try to avoid them and to reduce them more and more.
어디 저 개시 휴다도 저다 디나레 가르쳐서는 좋은 저 룰레직 소소 강에다 나자 가리야메 따가따가 지는 디나자디 요소나 나자다 학과와 진티 유칼레 가리파 르 나자 연구에 나자디 학과와지 메간 학과서나 나자디 유메 바샤지 메 땡거도와 디나이 안저 셈레 강에 연구요나 셈 강에 학과와지 유디 셈 강에 유디 학과와지 칼레칼레가 안 나오다 답람 되는 지래.
And so again, we apply the same, like similar methods to the methods we apply for the body. And to keep our body healthy, we will try to check the body. And if there is any kind of sickness in the body, we will try to check what are the causes of the sickness and also to take medicine in order to heal from that sickness. And in the same way, also for the mind, we try to find what are the causes of our suffering of mind and to apply the opposite, to apply an antidote to the negative states of mind that give us suffering in order to reduce until we eliminate the suffering of the mind. And so just like we work with the body, we also work with the mind. And we try to find what are the different troubles of mind and what are the causes of these troubles of mind, and then to stop the troubles of the causes of the troubles of the mind.
칼라 리보단 다 야나 베도샤단 자베게 셈나 강이 유는 냐데나 난들 때네 발생의 셈상마 강에서 그래.
And then if in the food that we take, if inside of the food there is like some kind of viruses, if there is some bacteria in our food, or if the food becomes old or rotten, so then the food can create like a sickness in our body. And so we will try not to take that kind of food and to avoid it. And in the same way also in our mind, we can have this different trouble of mind. We can have problems that we keep inside the mind. And these problems, the more we keep them inside the mind, actually they give us more and more trouble. So we should, just like the rotten food or the food with bacteria, we should avoid this kind of, way of acting with our mind, this way of thinking.
다자가나 지금도 류그 대당 영화 제와라 소소 집변도 뭐도 안에 직가스 memang보다 멤버다 메인다 내요다 안에 소소급의 초된다 상마된 류그 대당 용도와 다디나 이거 셈바데기 용구청나야 안 소소급 삼당당다 안에 소소급 제 가르쳐서나 삼노당다 된 나무 파마 번시 조고 조모 모두 참을 되는 가서 술 염을 부대니 지용 같은 대기 연구 너나 루셈니가 대기 영화 제발라 소소 직비관이 많이 봐. 나 저거 대기 뭔가 처배 때문에甚至망보 편지 도르권 땡지 도르권에 대기 연구를. 근데 봐서다 대기 강의 용색 예양 가르쳐서 대기 강의 용색 이게 심신 여러 또 참말 양고 할 제바 시고야 소시 직시를 제바 이시 소신 상기시고 패키지.
And also, we see that when we want to take care of our body, it's not enough just to have ourselves alone, but we need to rely on many people or in many conditions. Like we need to rely on the doctors and the nurses. We need to rely on medicine and food and so forth. So we need to have a lot of things in order to keep our body healthy. And it's not just one cause or one condition. And in the same way, also when it comes to our health of mind or to our happiness of mind, it doesn't come just from one cause, but it depends on our family, it depends on our friends, it depends on the way we think, it depends on the people around us. And so if we think about it, we realize that actually everyone is a source of our happiness. Like our happiness depends on everyone. And because our happiness comes from everyone, that's why it's extremely important that we really care for everyone, being the cause of our happiness.
similar deti gona ane semba pe kuyang buche pe kishin pare semba kusu to gochi sona ane kusu to gochi den ane pe tumi be ma yong buya semba kuyang buche den yango garsen deti ma yang pento yer.
Also, if we want to have happiness of mind, it's very important to have a very vast way of thinking, because if we go spend our life with a very uptight, small way of thinking, we actually will have more suffering. But if we think in a very big way, in a very vast way, and very relaxed and very open, so this creates more and more conditions for us to have more happiness and to deal with trouble when they come.
제가 도도 닝보데 배 르군 초대 당 셈 초대 이가 데 계신 거래.
So the essential meaning is both the health of body and the health of mind are both extremely important.
르군 초대 약보지나 르군 대단 뱅기요. 셈 초대 약보지나 셈 대단 뱅기요. 아니 초직네 르군 르셈이네 펜스 또 디바선다 르군 초대 약보진 데르테르 셈페야. 양 셈 초대 약보지나 르르페야. 양 르셈 니보데 양 데리 펜스 또 디바선다. 어디에 샤트야.
So if we take care of the health of the body, so it really helps the well-being of body. And also if we take care of the health of the mind, it helps the well-being of the mind. And since body and mind are interdependent, they are affecting one another. That's why if our body is very well, so it will help us to have also well-being of mind. And on the other way around as well, if the way we think and we maintain our mind is very good, so it will really help our body. Our body will also be much better if our mind is healthy and well.
다나 일룰레 대당 고서나 룰 초텐고 와서나 소소직 칼라사야당 대사당 통사당 세번이 말론 축구선 잡아 거리대 유나제대 양도 즉 배혔사네 아니 칼리자 아니 초진의 배혔사네 칼리자 아니 어디 제가 나예 먼저 셈을 대기 용거 지나서나 셈 초텐고 셈 초텐 용어 제발라 다 가르고르서나 제 장바당 세바당 시랍 어디서 배 야기다야 아니 셈바고 양버체야 셈나는 지 깡이나 동에 정소나 유성방 가야 저기 계신 거래요.
And so we see that the way we take care of the body, we should also like apply the same for the mind. And just like we try to take care of the body by taking the right foods and stopping the wrong foods, stopping to take the wrong foods, so in the same way also with the mind. We need to find the causes of happiness of mind, like love, compassion, patience, understanding, and to increase that more and more. And also to recognize the cause of suffering of the mind, and whatever suffering, trouble comes to the mind, to know how to stop that.
그래서 제가 니야서 말이게 마시가 다다 뱅게 다스 결성. 다디 역시 앞에서 뱅게 저 연구서 말이. 다 저거데 게시 휴대 가르쳐서는 간도 무슨 일 초대냐고 그랬어.
So mainly we need to have good health of both body and mind.
뭐다 저 가르쳐서는 초신의 간도 삼당서는 밀카 미기 대기고서는 대기자와 가래.
And so mainly if we think about if we want to be happy.
내 단다 시가 뱅게 큐네 고무도 와. 간시는 간도 센터를 대기 용어는 류대와 샘기와 류대와 용어 세발라 세원네만 놓쳐 거래 세원네만 놓쳐 약호 용어 세세 배향만 뭐 싸는 깔리게 하는 거 같습니다.
Là so.
Akkurat.
Din gyr norsang non la.
대단게.
Temperature shock.
Mhm.
So before I translated wrong the first part of what Rinpoche was saying, because I said, like, basically I repeated what Rinpoche said before, but I just forgot. Actually, the last time Rinpoche said about the body is that what we need for the body, like, we need to have the well-being of body, and for that we do need to have the conditions. We need to have good food, good clothing, possessions, and good place of residence and objects of enjoyment. And so for this purpose we need to make money. We need to make money, and so that we can have good conditions for the body, and that's really important for the well-being of body. And in the same way we take care of the body. The last
세상 배향 고원나 이 배향 싸는 수 배향질에 사실에 깔리게 하긴지 들어봤어.
just like we need money, we also work hard to make money.
다들 난지
And in the same way,
먼저 셈을 대기 거나
if we want the happiness of mind,
셈 대기 셈 초된 거래.
if we want the happiness of mind, we need to take care of the health of the mind.
어다 셈 초된 영어 시발라 셈 초된의 배야지의 참바 제와 시라 조진 삼시 어디서 셈나 거리 저 영향을 제대로 안에 가르쳐서 이 말을 이긴데 소소 검지단에 쇼게의 공다 투수 요배 값을 소소 검자야 단 검지단야 셈 버거 영어 제 패키지 뭐래.
And so, since we want to take care of the health of the mind, the way we do it is by creating the causes like love and compassion and understanding and trust and all of the things that brings happiness and joy and peace to the mind. And so these are the things we need to develop on a daily basis to bring it to the mind.
이 말을 이긴데 쇼게의 공다 투수 요는 소소 검자고 김제 때리 펜도 영어.
And that's why on a daily basis, if one has time, one needs to meditate to develop these things. And this is really beneficial.
나다 검자와 시발 검다 시와 시발이야 롬총 디스 고야래.
In order to meditate, we need to know how to meditate. And in order to know how to meditate, it's important to study a little bit.
어디네 말씀다 지난 조양 디스 쇼게다 공다 때문에 검 시양 뒤준다고 참참 사변바 니마 당소 디스 요나 아니 디고골라 검자당 골라제 롱당 제바당 참바당 제와당 시랍당 때문에 간에 제거야메 대고라 삼나 가라 당거야메 디고라 검가라 야거야메 이참마 마닥 빼야고 하고래 신기한서 디스 요네 디스야 된다 제그나네 치도 가세 제 니서 섬사다 니마레라 치도 잭슨 가진 다음에 야 치도 제가서 가래나 간지 양 된대신 기한서 고갑요나 냠도 마닥 검야고 자시레 냠도 양 참참 제란서 된다 지금 디스 가든 디스 검잖아 펜토요.
So because it is important to meditate, so if you have the time every week, you can meditate like once or twice a week, like at the very least, like maybe on Saturday or on Sunday, to take some time to meditate. And Marta knows really well how to meditate, so she can help you also with how to meditate to develop love and compassion and wisdom. So if you have some time, you can study together with Marta, like meet and learn together how to meditate, meet for half an hour or 2 hours, as much time as you have. And doing it together, it becomes, it really helps in order to know how to do that.
안데니지 야기당 야당 다가 나진 가르세서나 옥동네 당제베 권에 심바쿠용 보지야당 어직 생각강에 마치로 들어 삼당야당 대기야용 삼당야당 어든지 타는다 말이야. 그래서 양때에서 하고 되나 그래서 네가 초대는 빼야고요.
So whenever you have time, it's really beneficial to meditate, and doing the different meditations really help the mind. Meditations on love or compassion, and also meditations on like with the breathing, like breathing meditation, for example, when we inhale, bringing inside all the happiness or well-being of body, and as we exhale, taking all the suffering of or the sickness of body and taking outside all the suffering of mind. So these different techniques of meditation, there are many, and so these are like very beneficial in order to bring really happiness and peace to the mind.
어디도 추치바다 맞이와 차장을 펜도를 간선은 유sem님 초대시대인 바송다 추치미지 차장 펜도를 찍어봐.
And this is beneficial for everyone, whether one is practiced in religion or not, whether is one practiced in Dharma or not. These are things which are really beneficial. If we take the time to do that, it really helps.
아니 나무치기라 제와 이시 소신 삼키체는 심바 고양보죠. 백이신 거래요.
And to have trust and understanding and love and caring for one another in the family, to have a very open and relaxed way of relating to one another is very important.
아니 심각하게 가서 용서 강에 양 맞이다 람상 바 유고 가슴 강에 손도 괜히 나기래 람상 니마를 레전 강에 바 유고야 백이신 유비도나 persona 지바시 그래.
And no matter how many troubles come to the mind, it's very important not to keep that, but immediately to throw it away. And when I say to throw it away, I mean to forget. So no matter how much trouble comes to the mind, so it's really important immediately to forget that, not to keep it in the mind. It's very important to understand that this is garbage, that this is the garbage of the mind. So we keep all the trouble of the mind inside, and this is like keeping garbage inside of our mind. So when it comes to our phones or our iPads and laptops and so forth, so we know that we should keep deleting the messages we get, because if we don't delete the messages and the information and also the viruses that might be there, so if we don't delete all of this, so we know that the phone can just become too full and it can stop working. And in the same way, it's really important with our mind, just like we have in the phone the updates. We get the updates from our phone company, and we do the update, and afterwards we are able to delete all the the viruses that were before the update. So it's the same way. It's very important to do with our mind, and on a daily basis to keep updating the mind, to delete all the old useless messages that we have in the mind, and to update the mind on a daily basis.
That's why I got you.
So do you have any questions?
No questions, Rinpoche. It's okay.
Now you have question?
Anyone? Does anyone have a question?
Yeah,
There's a question.
Yeah.
Perhaps if you to be on screen.
Wow, on the big screen. I guess my question is, if you use your mind to look for a solution to a problem that can't be achieved easily, perhaps what's the best technique to kind of relieve that, I suppose? If you've got a really complex, challenging problem or a position in your life and you can't change it, and your mind's busy with processing that. I guess the question is, what's the best way to sort of detach from that or remove yourself or distance yourself so you can, I guess, be happier or move forward more positively? I hope that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a turn.
Sorry.
Okay.
So semki kaniel yona ni kaniel tis nyokta tsapo tis kalekakpo ani mepaso tis kakpo ina ani di mepaso achewala Ani me paso a cheran mare nan soso deki onyachitu. Ani tis par joya di kanel coração lo matanya tan tis par joya tis soso lolo chea ani sem deki onya kare tapshi karere. Tis gyunrin.
So 강의 랩잖아 강의 랩하다 몇 바시가 되냐래. 인데 좀 가르쳐서나 강의 도잖아 야수 셈난 야디아리 강의를.
So the main thing is that the very moment we have a trouble, the very moment trouble arises in the mind, actually at that very moment the trouble also stops to exist. The very moment it's created, in that very moment it also ceases. But we don't realize it, and we grasp to that problem as if it's real and as if it keeps staying there in the mind. And because we grasp at the problem, that's why it stays in our mind.
배는 가상가도 강의 제요나.
For example, if we had a problem yesterday,
가상 강의 들은 요 말아.
the problem of yesterday does not exist today, right?
이네다 나도 셈나네 가상 강의데 자동 셈나들은 야디어.
The problem of yesterday does not exist today, but still, we still hold to the problem of yesterday today as if it's still there.
일단 가상 강의 들은 셈난 야디와 sonda 가상 강의 들은 매나야 가상 강의 들은 셈난 야디와 sonda 강의랑 자용 gem세들.
So what enables the trouble of yesterday to remain in our mind today is that we still grasp at it as a trouble from the time of yesterday.
가상 강의 들은 매나양
Even though the trouble of yesterday does not exist today,
이네 가상 강의 들은 셈난 야디와 sonda
because we keep the trouble of yesterday also today in our mind,
아니 강의 균춘이 요 gem세들.
that's why the trouble continues to come.
제단다디 소소 셈난 마냐라 이나
But if one wouldn't have kept it in the mind,
안강이 균춘이 용 말해.
then the trouble will not be able to remain for a long time.
아니 초진의 강의 즉 파게 첨보 강의 첨보 랩디요냐.
And on one hand, even if one has a big trouble,
강의데 최종세와도 소소가 삼당 당사래 그래.
actually the extent of the trouble, whether it's big or small, actually depends on the way one thinks.
강의 총수직은 소셈나 강의 첨보 인상나 강의 첨보 용어도 왔습나.
If it is a small problem, but in one's mind one is holding it to be a big trouble, then it becomes a big problem.
강의 우드 첨보 랩디 소셈나 오케이 말디 총수상나 셈나 강의 히라면도.
If quite a big problem comes, but one sees it just as small, then it really becomes small. It doesn't really affect one's mind.
이도 소삼당 당사래 그래.
So it really depends on the way one thinks.
안다나 이미지게 맨날 미지게 책도자 희에서나.
And in the same way, for example, if someone has said a bad word to us,
콩아 빼도자 희에서 삼나.
if one thinks, oh, he said this really bad thing to me,
아니 공도 싸와당 셈나 강의 참 마키가 참 마키가 참 용 그래.
if one thinks he said really bad thing to me, so that makes one get angry and makes one's mind unhappy, and all the trouble is coming from that.
아고 책도자 희에나야.
But even if the other has said the bad word,
안들이 개면도 책도자 지라. 데 개면도 콩아 도자라는 가 도자 차고야 말해. 데 코랑 이쪽으로 맞 네 말해. 개면도 삼선은 용가 강의 가야 말해.
even if the other has said a bad word to oneself, but if one thinks, yeah, it's no problem, the other can say bad words, but that doesn't make me bad, it doesn't make me worse at all, it's the fault of the other. And so if one thinks in this way, then no matter how many bad words the other might say, it will not affect oneself at all.
Is clear?
Yeah, actually, it is clear. Difficult to put in place.
Difficult to put into practice.
Yeah.
어디서 소소 쫑래.
Well, this is one's own fault.
그래서 내가 가래
Because we won't need to work hard. Whatever we want to do, it's important to work hard.
곰디 곰손나 깔려요 말. 단다 깔려요 와도 마음래. 곰손 깔려요 말.
Once we get used to it, once we're habituated, then it's not hard. But as long as we are habituating, then it is hard.
계산 검지당 그래.
So we need to habituate.
Any question?
Yes, one more question.
Sorry, it's not a question, but is to habituate to accept, basically. To accept? Is that part of habituation? Like to accept?
Yeah, what's the meaning of habituation?
Yeah.
What does it mean to habituate and how to habituate, perhaps?
נצור קום גולה, אני קום די, אני ללאפו יומני קום צאנה, אני ללאפו יודה, אני קום סיה די תונדה כררה, אני קנדס קום גולה.
당보대 책대에서 즉 미직 책도 잘라나 남긴 것처럼 써놓는 거야. 책식도 잘라는 가리야래. 배문도 삼. 되는 남겨 두자 되나. 남겨 두자 책 되는 가리야래. 개요 말해서. 책도 잘 오지만 몰랐나. 아니 개요마다 미 가르라나 개요 말해. 미창마 가르세서나 미창마 노트메 봐 영어스가 말해 인데 개요 말해 삼소데 소 남이 다음에 가리나 영어 쪽으로 이제 책도 잘 있으라가 영어스가 남겨도 잘 되는 영어스가 되게 개요 말해 삼 가리 남이 당 안타한 쇼진이 가래 개요 말해 삼다 쇼진이 책도 잘 라바이나 들려되니다 동행 교인바 남게 술남 수책도 잘라 파책도 잘라나 사마 동행 요그레스 전 남겨도 잘 파 남겨도 잘 되나 사마 동행 요그레스 아코책도 설람 양내 책도 잘 팔말나 나저 강해요 말했어 고책도 남겨도 잘 되나 남겨도 잘 팔말이나 나저 강해 책 말했어 제단게 책도 잘 남겨도 잘 단데 강해 책에 이게 용도 하고 와지디 파르까 연티도 하고 와지 어디는 지내네 삼부초 때 어디는 시 컴퓨터
Well, the way to habituate is two sins. One sin is that we try to start from small. We try to start from small. For example, first, if someone says one bad word to us, so thinking, okay, they just said this one bad word, it's not a big deal. Or if they show one bad expression, so just one bad expression. And so, like, we habituate with the small, and slowly we can increase once we are doing it well. And together with that, it's also really important to look at the benefits of patience and the faults of anger. And so seeing, what happens when someone says a bad word to us and we reply with a bad word, what kind of trouble come to both of us? How does the dynamics of the relationship develops? And so seeing the faults of retaliating with anger. And in the same way, also looking at the benefits of patience. Or if the other says a bad word to me and I don't retaliate, so what happens? How does it affect me? How does it affect my mind? How does it affect my relationship with the other? So looking at the faults and the benefits from both sides and habituating from the small, like starting from small, this is the way to habituate. If someone is saying, if someone is showing a bad expression or saying a bad word to us, or they get angry, and if we do exactly the same, then it brings trouble to both sides. If the other is saying bad words or showing bad expressions, but one does not retaliate in the same way, does not retaliate with bad words or bad expressions, so this will stop the trouble. At that very moment, it will stop the trouble for both sides. And in the same way, even if the other is harming oneself with anger and so forth, but if oneself does not get angry, then one's peace of mind will remain just like before. But if one gets angry in return, so one loses all of one's peace of mind. If we get angry, getting angry, we lose our beauty. If we get angry, if we get angry, the blood in the body becomes a little bit dirty, polluted, dirty.
어떨 땐 류나 나자만 용되게 그래.
And this brings a lot of sickness in the body.
근데 등산 딱시시도 가리 용거잖아.
For example, these days when scientists, doctors are checking, what do they see?
미 컨트롤사 데비값이 착디스 레바이나.
They see that if one were to take the blood, a little bit of the blood of someone who is angry while they are angry,
이게 차데 쯔쯔데서 야바이나 쯔스니슨 배 람상 까마카히는 신도요.
so taking the blood from someone who is angry and putting that blood inside of a mouse, or if one puts the blood inside of a mouse, so even taking that blood and putting in 2 or 3 mice, so these 2 or 3 mice, they will die very quickly in a matter of few minutes just by receiving this blood.
기타 미 셈볼로루 요베 값을 미 차데 쯔스 ям가 간도 바용.
And then generally, like when like doing like that, like if one would take a blood from a human being while the person is very relaxed, very happy, relaxed, and put that blood inside of a mouse, so there will be no harm for the mouse.
왜냐다 롱랑 데베 값을 착더니 기나서 레게.
But if one takes the blood from someone who is angry and putting that inside of a mouse, there is very dangerous results.
아다나 컨트롤 혁신보 사와이나.
And in the same way, if one gets really very angry,
아들이 용이야.
so this creates a heart attack.
다 컨트롤 혁신보 레바이나.
If one is very angry,
루그 이미시스랑 냠도요.
if one is very angry, this also degenerates as the entire immune system of the body.
컨트롤 혁신보 사와이나. 가르선 루그 당참만 냠도요.
If one becomes very angry, so also the complexion of the body, the color of the skin, is becoming very pale.
안다가나 컨트롤 사와인 데르딘 남기 독시 통비요.
Also, if one gets angry, it makes oneself show bad expressions.
컨트롤 사와인 독시 라운드 통로요.
If one is angry, one also says bad words automatically.
컨트롤 혁신보 레바이나 소소 상보드님 바 제약 남축 히랍라도요.
If one is very angry, one forgets what's right and what's wrong. One is losing one's discriminative wisdom that is showing us the reality.
가시 그냥 미직 틈도 왜안 따네요?
Even if you have to go to court, even if you have to take someone to court,
그냥 덴바차탄 요네요?
and even if you are 100% correct,
그냥 컨트롤산 틈도 왜이나?
if you get angry and you go to court angry,
소소 효력인가 요래.
then there is a danger that one will still lose.
아니선 컨트롤사탄은 셈축자래.
Because once one is angry, the entire mind is already disturbed.
축자는 측강조마저 용그래.
And when the mind is disturbed, one will say like random sins.
측강조마저 레바이나는 그럼 덴바소스 토고 말아.
When one is saying random sins, one will not be able to represent one side, even if it's the truth. One will not be able to show it.
다가나 컨트롤 지바이나?
In the same way, one will not be able to show it well. And in the same way, if one gets angry,
너무 장마잠자.
so this brings disharmony to the entire family.
인체 장마잠자.
It brings the entire one's life becomes in disharmony.
된 말이 아니. 가르쳐서 네발서 김치지.
And also it brings disharmony between neighbors.
다가나 이게 컨트롤 혁신보 사와이나?
Also in the same way, if one gets very angry,
아니 이급 장마잠지게 컨트롤인도.
that which makes the disharmony also between countries, that takes away the peace between countries, is also anger, right?
나도 빼.
So these are the
지금 말인데 컨트롤 많이 배우면 두자 차도 전선 말이 완도자 마보여 된 단다데做的 셈두시 지금 빼. 지는 양고대 세워하고도 그래.
So we take anger now as an example. It's not that it's only true for anger. It's true for all the negative minds. They all do like quite similar work. Anger, jealousy, competitiveness, pride, attachment, ignorance. they all like bring similar side effects, or they give similar trouble. But we take anger right now as an example.
시당 되는 바 선당 딜에 즉 먼저 단다 받대 롱어 있으면 제가 독자 시야 먼저 디스 컴리요 선당 디 깔이요 말에 롱어 있으면 제가 상보 지야다 자바고냐다 남들이 야고대야 측 야고지야 삼의 야고다야디 먼저 컴리 시라메 바 선단다 강해요. 이나야 소소간저 롱어 있으면 제가 독자 시야 좀 하고 하신데 깔이 용도 다니 말에 이제 롱어 있으면 제가 상보 지는 디 용도 다 하고 하신 말에 이제 컴리다 그냥 전시 때문에 건 말에 이제 곰지당 지나 되네시네 안에베 니마당 돈자당 다와당 론도가 양 곰지당 와이나 아니 지마디 알세소나 상고치야라 수깔이야만 곰찬나.
No, the trouble is that right now we don't have a strong habituation with the good states of mind, and we have quite a strong habituation with the negative states of mind. So we have quite strong habituation with anger, attachment, ignorance, jealousy, pride, and so forth. And that's why it's not so hard for us to create them. It comes quite automatically. And we don't have a strong habituation with the good states of mind, like love, compassion, understanding, trust is not something we have a very strong habituation. And that's why it's quite difficult for us to really apply it. But this is something we can change. If we are on a daily basis, day by day, month by month, year by year, if we continue to develop the good states of mind and we continue to reduce the negative states of mind, so at one point our habit will become very strong, and then it will become very easy. It will be automatic. We will be able automatically to create the good states and not to create the bad ones. Even if you live in a house which is like a 5-star hotel, and you have like billions and billions of dollars, and even if you have like hundreds of thousands of friends together with you, but if one's mind is always very small, very uptight, so as long as one's mind is thinking in this way, very small, one will never have like a genuine peace. And even if it looks good from the outside, inside one will know it's not the right thing. There will not really be a peace of mind. But even if one's house is not so like very fancy, and even if one doesn't have like millions and billions of dollars, even if one doesn't have like hundreds of thousands of friends, but if one's way of thinking is very broad-minded, very vast, if one has the power of love, compassion, and wisdom, if one knows how to think in a very vast way, no matter what comes, then one will always have peace. And also on one hand, even if a little trouble comes, if we think about it from one direction, on one direction, yeah, we will say it's a trouble. But if we keep thinking, oh, I have a trouble, so actually we add another trouble.
Extra suffering. Problem.
Otherwise, when one has like a trouble or a problem that comes and one thinks, well, it's not really a trouble, actually it's an advice or it's a teacher. If one thinks there's so much I can learn from this, well, thinking in this way really helps oneself to have like a new aspiration, a new road, a new path that one can take in one's life. And on one hand, if there are a lot of trouble, if one has a lot of trouble, then one can really recognize what is happiness. Because if one doesn't have a single problem, one will never be able to recognize happiness. If one really wants to have good peace in one's life and good happiness, so one needs to have a lot of experiences. Actually, it's not that we don't have any happiness. It's just that we don't know how to recognize the happiness. If one was able to recognize one's happiness, then one will really feel joy. Even though one has happiness, as long as one does not recognize the happiness, as long as one does not recognize the happiness, even though one has it, it is as if one doesn't. For example, even if someone has a very precious object, even if someone has a very precious object, but they don't realize that it is very precious. So it is, one doesn't have it, right? But if one knows it, if one knows that one has a precious object, and then one is able to use the precious object to its 100% preciousness.
Any question?
Was the answer clear?
Can't say.
Clear.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Another question?
Does anyone have a question? Anyone who's online can ask a question. Just open your camera and microphone.
Yeah.
Question? Any questions? No?
No question, good question.
Question?
Treba said male, treba chenpo go mare. So seminar jik treba chong kare na jik. Treba pe jik sting sabo chenpo go mare.
So a question doesn't have to be a big question, whatever really is like on your mind, whatever you feel like asking. So feel free to go for it. It doesn't have to be the biggest, most profound, just something that really is important for you to know.
Any question?
No one? No. Okay, there's maybe one more question here.
One small question.
One small question.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can ask, and then there's another question, but you can ask.
Okay, sure.
No, you can ask. Then there's another question after you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Just as a follow-up question, I suppose. So my question is, if there is a like in basic terms, like you said earlier, if someone speaks poorly of you, and you in return speak poorly of them, or if there's a conflict of interest around something, what's the best way to restore the harmony between the two parties, regardless of what the miscommunication is? How do you restore the harmony between both parties?
Have conflicting opinions or ideas about them.
Yeah. So if you're having a conflict with someone, maybe it's your neighbor over a fence, or It doesn't have to be a big thing, but
Yes.
if you're not seeing eye to eye or at the same level to someone else, whether it's someone you're working with or someone you live close to, what's the best way to resolve that? Do you just take responsibility for your own actions and hope for the best? I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Kisi soso mishenta tan tat chukpa shorna. Ani is the chik matum chik di chik maruma chik club ani chik yang maruma chik club. Ani di tene di tis chukpa shor. Ani soso di yamena soso tawa matumpa tan tende chunwaina. Ani kae di tapshik di yankir di yakpo di champo tan yakpo yon yala. Ani pensun yakpo champo yon wala chewala. Ani kare chego di soso chane kantuk tupche. Ani shen kola semtel mache. Tende chena yakshure kandes chegore.
So senna nyara yomar.
Well, mainly not to keep it in the mind.
This lamsa, this is missing a pasho kyongyor, so the kyongyor, lamsa sopa goma to chupa short cigarette.
Like there can be faults from both sides. Like oneself has some faults, the other also has some faults. And because of this, we can have like some fight on the short term. But we shouldn't keep it in the mind. For example, small children, when children of the age of 2, 3, 4, when they get into a fight, if they have fought, like, let's say 5 minutes before, then 5 minutes after, they will again be the best friends. They will eat together, smile together, laugh together, play together. They will do it all. So children can do it. So why can't we? Because we keep it in our mind, you know, we keep it like we have this kind of dark way of thinking, and we keep it inside like that. So we should never keep it in our mind. At best, at best, we shouldn't get angry to begin with. We shouldn't say the bad words. We shouldn't get into a fight. That's the very best. But if we already got into a fight, if we already got angry, so the best thing to do then would be just to forget about it. Just like small children. We shouldn't keep it in our mind. Just like children. The children can have a fight, and then a few minutes after, just play together as if nothing happened. And so we should be able to do the same. Mainly it happens because we hold to it, because we keep it in the mind. All the trouble is coming from that. And also, we should not just think about ourselves alone. If there are two people in the situation, so we should see both of us as equally important. As long as one sees oneself as the most precious, the other will also see themselves as precious, right? And so in this way, how can we ever have like love in the family? But if we see each other as equally precious, so we will have good relationship, love to one another, right? This is extremely important.
Okay, there's one question here. Question is, what is an example of someone having happiness but not knowing it?
Rinpoche nola ani soso la deki yore ina deki yopadi natso hako yomare. Ani dila Rinpoche di pechik shaya yorepe. Di selpo soyach tu di pechik shakwaina. Ani michik la deki yopa chik hamagoa deki di kandestrapo. Di sosola deki yopa di ani hamagoa kandestrapo pena.
Oh, tadi pe masih pe manggo share ta.
Well, I have many examples to give.
Soya me ba share ta.
Endless. I have endless.
Oh, pe na pe ra chi na.
For example,
Tele chiu gu zhong chi yore.
there is a story about birds.
Rikpa chama.
Please,
chiu kata chik, kuro chik.
so please pay attention. So there was one bird which was a crow.
Oh, nge ma kuro chik xing dong gang li ka sang ge zhong xian ba de chen chi de.
So there was a crow, like a raven or a crow, that was standing on top of a tree.
Ani xing dong za wa de la gom jang ke chi yore.
And then at the foot of the tree, at the root, or like on the bottom of the tree, there was one meditator.
Teni ko da kuro di korang sam ta.
And so the crow was thinking.
Korang duksha kya sam ta re.
And only thinking bad thoughts all the time.
Oh, ngan do na pore xia.
Oh, I have this black collar.
En mit sa me ngal ga bo chi ya mare.
And everyone don't like me.
Oh, mit sa me ngal te mo ta ya mare.
No one wants to look at me.
Oh, ngal nge ba chen ke ya mare.
No one gives me any presents.
En san bele ngi chi na chang ma duksha na du nge ka nge che ngara re sam re.
From all the birds in the world, I have the biggest trouble. So the crow was thinking like that.
Korang sem ba kyo me shi sa wa re.
And he felt very sad. The crow, like it felt very sad. And the crow was crying.
Ani di me shi tang wa de gom chin di thong wa re.
And the yogi that was sitting under the tree, he saw that the crow was crying.
Me shi ka chin tang ge yus.
And he asked, why are you crying?
Da tang ge se de ne ko ka nge chang ma xie ba re.
And then he spoke about all of his trouble.
Ani kirang ka cha ndo ba yus.
And so he said, well, what would you like to be? What would you like to be? The yogi said to the crow, what would you like to be?
Ko ge ngang ba kar bo cha ndo ba yus.
So the crow replied, well, I want to become a black swan. A white swan, sorry.
Ani da gom chin di ga ke ya mare se nge kirang nga gya ne tu ba tu ne ni kirang de nga gya ne ni kirang ngang ba kar bo zo chos. Ine ma zo ngo na kirang kar se so na ko de chi kar ya me ke che this la.
And so the yogi replied to the crow, well, don't worry, I can help you. I can say some mantra, and then you will transform into a white swan. But before I do that, please check, okay? Go to the swans and really check how their lives are. Check how happy they are. Please do some research before we go through with that. And so he went to the swans. And he asked the swans. So he went to the swans, or to a specific one, and he said, oh, my dear friend, the swan, hello. So I guess you are the happiest. I guess from all the birds that fly in the sky, I guess you are the happiest. Your skin, your color is like the color of milk, so white. I guess probably you have the happiest of life, right? What did the swan reply? Well, the swan said, well, it's just what you think. Actually, I have even bigger trouble than you, bigger suffering. Because my color is so white.
난 독요 말했어.
That's why it's so white. Is I don't have any color.
걔는 나쁘게 봐서다. 나를 걔는 양도 걔는 독도 가세. Gjorde bara.
The kiran nakpoin pasonsan nalle kiran yakadu kiran the
I said, 걔는
natsapo.
독요. You have color.
Aleo.
Because I have any color. I have not any color.
So this one said to the crow, well, you have a color, you have like a black color, so you have a color. But for me, because my color is completely white, I don't have any color.
Gjorde massor. Actually, you have more happiness. I am more suffering. Why? Because I am someone, I am no color, only veg. Veg is no color. Veg is no color. You have black color, you have color. Actually, you more have, you have more the quality, you have more happiness. You're talking about the culture, and Kasang of the German.
So this one said like that, like you understood, right? This one said, actually, you have it much better. You have a color. You have a black color. As for me, I have a white color. I don't really have a color. But you have the black color. You have a color. So you are actually more happy. So I don't even have a color to begin with. So if you compare not having to having, so of course having is better. So your situation is better. And then the swan said, well, maybe you should go and speak with the parrot. The parrot seems to be quite happy, so you should go and speak with the parrot.
And the Koran dog the Koran Hako Yamara, Nambal maybe dog koyova, Kin Hako son. The Hako do and go, oh, Nambal Monere, Kala Jayamar, Nalkala Chigger, oh, not what the Yandichik do, some call a sim, Chigawachik Hako, Yeni Koran, Yandichik Hako.
And so after this conversation with the swan, the crow was feeling a little bit better already, because the crow was thinking, yeah, it's true, like the swan doesn't really have a color, it's completely white, but I have this black color, so I do have a quality. So he was feeling like that and feeling a little bit more happy, a little bit more comforted. He went searching for the parrot. And then he asked the parrot. And he said, oh, parrot, I think probably you are the happiest bird in the world. Because you're really beautiful, right? You have so many colors, right? Also, your voice is so pleasant. And many people really like you, right? And people make like a special house just for you. Who can be happier than you? What was the answer of the parrot? The parrot said, actually, it's the opposite. Everything you told me right now, none of these things are cause of happiness. These are cause of suffering. Because I'm beautiful, they put me in a cage. Because I have a pleasant voice, they put me in a cage. I don't have any freedom. But you have all the freedom. Who can be happier than you? And from this, what did he understand? Well, the crow realized that it has one kind of happiness that the parrot doesn't have, right? There are not many that try to harm it, right?
그런 상황이 여러.
It has freedom, right?
또 대기로다.
So this is happiness.
이내 그런 하고요 말아.
But he didn't realize it.
세상 소소 유나양 매기 마히 지지의 마히나 하마고 김치 찍더라.
And so, like, even though it had these qualities, it didn't realize that it had that.
세상 그런 상황 누가?
So it had freedom, right?
자위기는 매배 대기 콜 누가?
Also having happiness that other birds didn't have, right?
인데 대인배선 인데 하마고도 강내리 누가?
But as long as one doesn't know it, so there is trouble, right?
다 하고도 고sem난 돈날레그라 문이래서 문이바 하고는 sem난 대기래 누가?
But once it realized it, so then it could really see that this is the truth. Once the crow saw that he has these qualities, it has these qualities, then it really understood it's the truth.
다도는 마비자를 깨치지.
And also in the same way, you also went to ask the peacock,
마비자 키랑 빼기부도 왔어.
saying, "Oh, peacock, you are really, really happy.
그럼 무통창만 보 때문에 당도 왔어.
There are like thousands of people that come to see you.
안 빼도 빠르게 비디오 장이 빼 강도 왔어.
And look, the place is full of people taking your pictures, taking videos, all of them.
걔는 기업사들 잠을 지우수요래서.
What bird in the world can be happier than you?
딱 문에 지는 마비자가 가래.
And what is the peacock say?
독쇼래서.
The peacock said, "No, it's the opposite.
닝제와 요가 성장
Because I'm beautiful,
주는 루퍼래서.
because I'm beautiful, they put me in a zoo.
걔는 닝제와 요가 성장
Because I'm beautiful,
노파킹 빼만 보가 생킹 빼만 보여래서.
there are many people, many who try to harm me, many animals that try to eat me, to kill me.
근데 지마 희생된 스텔라메 애니멀라메 봐. 닝제와 요가 성장 미세기여라. 마비자스는 조트 정부여라.
Not animals and not to eat, but to kill. Because I'm beautiful, there are many human beings that try to kill me in order to sell the feathers.
세상 마비자 조 닝제와데 종야당 대저 장만 매바서야 시대는 마비자 가시가 또 가시다 강에 참마대야 닝제와데 강에 되려.
So because the feathers of the peacock are so beautiful, some people try to kill the peacocks, some to cut the feathers in order to sell them.
너는 그배 닝제와들 때네 항상 그 속을 인가 뭐 붙여요.
And so in short, because of being so beautiful, it brought a lot of dangers to its very life.
이나 계란 닝제와 매바 성장
But because you are not beautiful,
그런 상황에서
so that's why you have freedom.
그런 노바킹게 요말했어.
There's no one who wants to harm you.
오늘 시는 잠들인 그 지우창에는 깊이 키워놨어.
Actually, from all the birds in the world, you are the happiest.
그 밑창에 키나 다치고만 도왔어.
There's not a single human being that is your enemy.
같이 zem디 연 당샤래 봐.
And even if someone would catch you, they will release you immediately.
세상 소설 하나에 도왔어.
So one really has freedom.
어디 된대신에 깨지 기비 값어?
And when he was asking in this way,
아니 이히는 소설을 상황이 받아 지우신을 매백 연태 소설 요바 하고.
when the crow was asking in this way, so finally the crow understood that he really has freedom and qualities that other birds don't have.
아데네 그 랑장에만 도설 대산 도바래.
And then again, it went back to its old place.
아니 검진자 레베 값을라.
And when it came to the yogis, like to next to the yogi,
아 검진 거 딱이나 딱 남바키 보칸 독슬라래.
when it went back to the yogis, so the yogi asked, "Well, what do you say? What do you say, crow? How happy are you?"
야, 이제 남바테 기분을 뭐네다 잠만 보게 되면
the nampa.
깊이 나라를 있어서 이야만데 지금 상황이.
And so the crow said, like, I checked with the other birds, and actually,
then yogi people said grow. Oh, grow. Then how is the then happiness then happiness one? Did you check it? Then cross saying, oh, I check it. So I'm sorry. Before I thinking it's completely wrong. Before I think I have many suffering. I think like that. Now is then completely wrong. Someone is suffering. Is more than suffering for me. I'm happy. Then more happy. So now is I have many then quality. I have freedom. I have whatever the fly. I have no the enemy. I'm very happy. I'm freedom. So I'm then someone not harming me. So now I'm please Bruno not then change me. I didn't then become then Swan. This life is very good. So now I have many quality. I have many happiness. And now, thank you very much. I recognize now. And saying like that.
So this is the example. And what is the meaning? When we look, we see people who are like big leaders. They have like a lot of influence. They have high status. And when we look at them, we see that they have like a big name and big fame. We see them having great happiness. But because oneself doesn't have the name and fame, so one doesn't see the happiness that oneself has. But actually, because the other has a lot of name, like a big name, a big fame, because of that, they have a lot of suffering. And because I don't have a big name or a big fame, I don't have suffering. And in the same way, if one is rich and famous, so we would see the rich and famous as extremely happy. If someone is rich and famous, we would see them as extremely happy, right? But actually, they have a lot of enemies. A lot of fear and anxiety, worries in the mind. But for us, we don't have that fame. We don't have that richness, so we don't have this trouble in our mind. So we have a quality that they don't have, right? So we can think, yeah, I'm not a famous person. But because I'm not famous, I have happiness. Because I don't have so many enemies. I have freedom. If one is famous, there's no freedom, right? And in the same way, there are many examples. In the same way, if we look at our body, so also we can look at our body, and some people are very rich and very famous, but they have a lot of sickness in the body, a lot of trouble. But for us, our body is quite well, right? We don't have much sickness. We don't have really severe disease. So we have that kind of happiness. So actually, if we look at ourselves, if we think about it, we can see that we have a lot of happiness. And even like usually we would look at the rich, the famous, and we will think that they are extremely happy. But if we think about it well, so we would realize that actually we have a lot of happiness that they cannot have. So I gave both the example and the meaning. Was it like did it make sense?
Amazing. Thank you. That's it. Yes.
Any question? 제당다 나란데 지금 나는 님한테 받은 상담도
So also as like I also think like this. I think like this every day.
사실 example 그 매 깨다 체휴 추휴 깨다 체휴 뽕보터 휴 나이나
I think if I was the most famous, the biggest leader, the richest person in the entire world,
난 직노다 현노다 암작다 안에 쇠도 가서요.
so being such person, there is so much fear, anxiety, and worries in the mind, so many hopes and fears.
술이요, 심지.
Being such person,
벤서스 person 나. 요 말이지.
like if I was such person, I would.
같이 나. example 이거는 배 깨다 체휴 추휴 깨다 체휴 뽕보터 휴 되나? 나를 배대 미히는 매배 그 자당 셈는 직능 없는 넘자 현능 나를 배 강의만 보여래스. 다들 많이 봤었다. 그것도 강의 참가 요 말이지.
So if I was like the most famous, the richest, the biggest leader in the world, so I will have so much fears and so much worries, anxiety in my mind. But because I'm not, so I have so much freedom. I have so much like leisure. I have so much.
많이 봤었다. 나 되게 많이 봤었다. 이거 강의 참가 요 말이지. 이 매배는 얘기래.
Because I'm not in that situation, so I don't have all this trouble. So this is my happiness.
그래서 네 강의 참 매배는 얘기래 봐다.
So not having all of this trouble, this is my happiness.
근데 몇 개다 첨부시겠나?
For example, for a famous person,
소소로 랑하면 돼.
one doesn't have freedom, right?
할라사진 그러네요.
Even going to eat something, taking something to eat.
나 같아 좀도. 할라사진 그러네요.
Even when one goes to eat some food,
빠르게 상공에 가서 용 그래.
there will be so many people taking pictures and news people, so many coming.
아니 출력 잠잠 그러네요. 소소 가만 들어서 줘야 말아.
And even if one wants to go for a walk outside, one cannot just do it, very peacefully.
가봐서 들어도 몇 참에 도나지 따디기래.
Wherever one goes, everyone pays attention, right?
소소로 그 랑하지 요 말.
So one doesn't have any freedom.
이는 안죠?
But for us,
가만 들어도 따디기면 돼.
wherever we go, no one is looking, right?
알 산다 지도 신기면 돼.
Whatever we eat, no one minds our business, right?
가봐서 잠잠 들어도 소소 랑하래 돼.
Wherever we want to go for a walk or travel, we don't have to think about it.
소소 니마 지금 소소 내가 가는 소소 랑하래 돼.
Every day, whatever we do, we have the freedom to do that, right?
되기면 가래.
If this is not happiness, what is?
Is clear?
I think it is clear. Very clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. 제단가 남당 사딩에 보데 야친보 연나 대잠구 펜터야 말에 캄바데서 야친보 대잠 펜은 가뚜는 sembape 고양보 남미 찍찍라 제와 찍찍라 이시 찍찍라 소생 찍찍라 삼시 근데 근데 시장 미상보 조파상보 케이춘 상승된 매직 시대바이나 소소 셈나 시대 요래 미스투나야 대지 요래 어디 항상 계신부터 저거데 생각 구형 것이 미 약고시고 백계신 거래.
And so the fact that the sky and the earth are very vast, that in itself doesn't help us. What we really need is to bring these qualities inside of us, and it's to make our mind very vast. And also, it's really important to have care for one another in the family, and to trust one another, and to have patience and understanding for one another, to each other in the family, and to have love and caring. This is extremely important, because this is what will bring us happiness. And also to be a good person. If we have good actions and we are a good person, so this will bring us the real happiness. So this is extremely important.
그래서 집에서 마땅하지잖아. 말 대지고와 나중에 너무 파마든지 심시 창마 대지고 때문에 맞선다. 대창마를 가르쳐 대바된도로. 나 동에 먹어와 나 심시 창마 동에 거야 말. 나도 집파래. 제가 진청 대시송야 돼. 찍찍을 팬도시에 패키징 거래.
And also not just thinking about oneself alone, but thinking that just like I want to be happy, also my family and friends, relatives, people of the world, and everyone, all sentient beings, we all want to be happy. And so trying to bring happiness to everyone. And in the same way, also just like I don't want to suffer, also my family, friends, relatives, people of the country, people of the world, and all sentient beings, everyone, we don't want to suffer. And so whatever we do, always trying to prevent suffering.
아니 강의 디슬랩나 심슈차지 말 강의 요디요. 대화 정신과 말디 코와 동의 견소에 봐서 동의 징내에 봐서 동의 용그라.
And if a trouble comes, we shouldn't become disheartened, because we don't live in a pure land. We don't live in paradise. We live in samsara. And samsara is an ocean of suffering. So being in an ocean of suffering, of course, there will be suffering. That's the nature of the place.
난좀 몇째 통통래.
Our life is very short.
그래서 몇째 통통씩 나네. 루데와 심박고 양보시니 심리 시대요나 몇째 통통이나야 딜레베 대기 요 딜레베 통다 심보 요래. 몇째 통통이 선 디나 가디나 강정만 전자 삼모당 배소소소 가서 두고 장장 당 소소 삼바 거서 도시데 몇째 가르 팬도 요래.
Our life is very short. So during this short life, it's really important to think in a very vast way, to think in a productive, positive way. Because if we always have this random way of thinking, we will always create suffering for ourselves. And then we will spend our entire short life in misery.
아니 삼장로 소소 너무다 조보조모다 자장 펜션 발라야 강의 정약 어디네 강의 쳐야 되네 만보여래 이나 이제 그 강의도 쳐야지 말 강의도 가서네 단데 드는 강의 쳐는 심주샤가 말에 조보 펜주 카트에서는 심주샤가 말 가르치네 야그 산나니 요하여 가냐 버셔야 삼자 정보 희와촌은 가지기야 말이야 매바셔야 주장마대 소소 문리수 장마 하고 그 백해시 말
And sometimes we might have trouble with our family, with our friends, with our partner. We might have trouble. And at that time, it's very important to understand that this trouble is something that happens, and not to become disheartened. Also, that the trouble is something that can change. Even though we have trouble today, tomorrow it can stop. So to have a very vast way of thinking about it, trying to solve it. And also on the other way, sometimes we might have everything going great. We might have the best relationship with our friends, with our family, with our neighbors, and so forth. And at that time, it's very important not to become proud. And so the main meaning here is whatever happens, good or bad, it's very important not to let the bad make us disheartened, giving up, and not to let the good make us proud.
다다나기 강의 직례서나 희와 심주차고야 말에 드는 강의는 산대기 로들 강의는 로지마 대희와요.
And in the same way, even if trouble comes, we shouldn't make a big deal out of it. Today we might have a trouble, and tomorrow we might have happiness. As this year we might have trouble, and the next year happiness. This is the way it goes. Our happiness and suffering in our life is just like this. Happiness. Suffering.
Heavy suffering, heavy suffering, heavy suffering, suffering heavy. 제단다 가르치는 대기 동의시에도 저기질에 직전에 용어들은 대기 용도 효과가 하면 동의시에 시도도 하면 돼.
So happiness and suffering are going in this way. Today we might be happy and tomorrow we might suffer. But just because we have this like happiness today, it doesn't mean we have to be extremely joyous about it. And just because we suffer, it doesn't mean we should be too down because of that.
또 그것이 생각고 양보지.
The most important is always to have a very vast way of thinking.
강에 심식 맞아지.
And when we face trouble, not to give up.
다 동양 강이시야 동네 소소 강에 가시 랩상에 동네 지기 삼 셈이 거래.
We need to have the determination and the courage, thinking no matter how many trouble comes, I will become even more courageous. I will face them.
강에 가시 랩상에 동네 지기 삼 셈식도 유나.
If one has the courage, thinking the determination, thinking no matter how many trouble comes, I will face them and overcome them.
저런 게 둘라 대기람과 가디는 요래.
If you keep having this motivation, this way of thinking, you will always have the path of happiness just in front.
강에 랩이 지나 셈식 차서나.
If you just give up when you face trouble,
아니 얘네 지나 대기람과 나와다.
then you lost the path to happiness.
안 다나 이 메시지가 나나.
In the same way, in one life,
삼삼 롭종 야디 가서는 소소 롭종 지하고 고갑락스게 말았스게.
in one's life, one might have sometimes opportunities to study and sometimes not having the opportunity to study.
내가 약고 락스게 말았스게.
One might get a good job or one might not.
강에 가리는 형스게.
There can be all kinds of trouble.
이나 강에 가리는 셈식 마샤다.
But no matter what trouble comes, never give up.
그런 가디나 람갈 요래.
And then you always have the best in front of you.
삼삼에 지나 네가 이 개침보지 매바샤서네야.
Sometimes, even if you lose one important job,
셈식 차 말해.
you shouldn't give up.
그한테는 다도야 내가 들이 야과지 기나 라야 고갑 요래.
Because sometimes losing a good job gives us an opportunity to get even a better one.
제가 들이 봐서다 강에 직티바 김세신 셈식 차디야 말. 뭐네신 들이 야외 고갑락스게.
So one shouldn't take the fact that one is facing a trouble or not getting a job, for example, to be a reason to become disheartened, because not getting a specific job or losing it, it gives us an opportunity to get even a better one.
다가나 이게랑 그 가로부지 내말 이요네야 대발 락소네야 셈식 차고 말이 즉시는 들이 야지 락스게.
In the same way, even if you had like a partner before and you lost that partner, you shouldn't become disheartened, because it is possible that you will get even a better partner than the one before.
다가나 이 롭조시야 고갑지 내말 락소네 셈도 기요 말이 뭐네신 들이 야지 기나 라 고갑이 쓰게.
In the same way, even if you didn't get a chance to study before, you shouldn't become disheartened, because you might get a better opportunity to study than before.
너나 소소 셈육 마잖아.
So in short, as long as one doesn't give up,
강에 가서 튀네야 다도야 기랑 고갑이 요래.
as long as one doesn't give up, no matter how many trouble one faces, there is still an opportunity there.
셈육 차는 고갑 나와래.
But once one has given up, only then one loses one's chance to be happy.
강에 가시 랩나야 기랑 강에 시야 타람 요래다.
No matter how big a trouble might be or whatever kind of trouble it might be, you always have a way to solve it.
그래서 타람 요나 가르치는 셈육 차그래.
So if there is a way, why should we become disheartened?
기치길 문제나 셈육 차디요 말.
The most important is in our life never to give up
아니 강에 셈난 야디요 말.
and not to keep the trouble in our mind.
셈그 괜히그래.
This is the garbage of the mind.
아니 롭종 약바지.
And to have good studies
아니 셈팽이 자 마스드.
and to work for the sake of others as much as possible.
아니 셈바상 거지.
to accomplish the purpose of others as much as possible, and to have a good heart.
근데 지바 이나
And if one is doing that,
이런 두 남대야 심축작 말해.
if you keep doing that, so you will never give up.
내가 가르친 프로난 거래.
Whatever we do, we need to have joy.
프로나 요는 그냥 내가 가르이나 강이야 말해.
If you have joy, whatever you do, you will never have any trouble.
니 말을 신의 심나 프로난 거래.
On a daily basis, we need to cultivate joy in the heart.
어디 심 기대를 팽그래.
This is good for the peace of mind.
대단한 들은 거 고갑대 규네. 아니 게 기랑솔라 강이 가스 체바이나야. 나라다 나도 지바래. 나라 강이 가스 체나야. 동네 시야가다 심바 쿠양 지야다. 예뱅 차워들 약 말한 게 잡아래. 대나 인간 저 토과대 되는 거 토과 기랑소 토과배 가고 정송 이 심띵니. 수수 분시다. 남이 그 뜻이 야베 거네. 아니 세비 끝내나वे 거네. 간저 다이야마 토야지 깨져 기회가 가고 정송 기랑소 무지 찍는다. 강이 가스 체나 심축 맞아. 세 아니 심바 쿠양 뭐지. 예뱅 차워 마스드스. 뭐든지 레바시야.
So today, like one important thing that I want to say is that no matter how many troubles you face, and I can say it on behalf of all of us, like we are all like together. So no matter how many troubles we face, it's really important that we keep a very vast way of thinking, and that we never give up. And also, really from the depths of my heart, I really see all of you, like my family and my relatives. And so I'm extremely happy to meet each and every one of you. And so my wish for all of you is really, no matter how many trouble comes, never give up and keep developing the good heart and keep trying to solve the trouble.
대장게 세비게 분치 제모다 남문다 이렇게라서 상말라 아니 심 띵는 게 제비 근데 나베 거니 매제 시대 영역 아니 심나 존동된 바 영역 내기 대야 아니 소소 매제 들에 되네 소소 집을 많이 심지 방법 펜터 하시든가 뭐라면 자기인스.
And so to all of you, my dear friends and family, those who are like my big brothers and sisters,
제비 제모다 중모하듯이.
those who are like my big brothers and sisters, and those who are like younger than me, like my young brothers, young sisters. So I really want to say to all of you, from the very depths of my heart, that it's really important that in our life we really do good actions and we don't give up. This is really important.
그때 마상에 무체 지나서 정말 심식 마셔야 센나 히델레야다 연병이 차와 공원에 줘야다 안드니 차와 정말 남로야 뭐람자 해요스.
Sorry, that I will pray that we will all be able to do good actions in our life to benefit as many people as possible, and to have peace and happiness, to always be able to overcome trouble. And so I will pray for all of you.
아니 걔는도 땀 뭐람 자고 지구병 말 저도 계시히 소소 잠바당 제와당 시럽당도 열기당 아니 드니치야 계신 버다디 직소소 뒤수 정외 값을 니마 딱 바르 까만 아스주스 정하다 뒤수 여배 값을 곰야 계신 버래 대단 걔는도 마다 냠도데 하고 되어 손도 마다 곰자 단tam다 하고 그래 저런들이 맞서는 걔는도 뒤수 여배 값을 냠도 곰자 양 값을 양 디스직에 펜도도나 아니 게 디치인스.
And just to pray alone is not enough, but the most important is to really meditate, to develop this inside of us, to develop love and compassion, wisdom from within. And so for this purpose, you can really, rely on Martha, and to together with Martha to study and to practice like love, compassion, wisdom. And if you also need me in the future, so of course I will come very happily.
And someone you want to show.
And I wish you all to have a really happy day. And now we'll pray for your entire life to be happy. And most important, to have a very vast way, not to think very small. And if the mind becomes a little unhappy, so looking at the sky and reminding ourselves that just as the sky is vast, also our mind needs to be the same. And in the same way, when one has like a sadness of mind, having sadness of mind, one can go to the ocean, looking at the ocean,
양조 등이 샘데스.
and thinking the ocean is like my mind.
양조 발라 등이 샘슈그레스.
And the waves of the ocean, this is my determination.
항상 개침벌에.
This is extremely important.
미치지는 감이 티베 값이라.
And in our life, when we face trouble,
레토부 간조.
so at that time, one can go on top of a high mountain.
잠자 마다.
Not in order to jump from the mountain.
잠잠 next life 샤브레.
If we jump, then it's our next life.
레토부 간 마다.
So going on top of a high mountain and looking down.
레토부 간 따와이나.
And when one looks down from a high mountain,
똑샤장 통그레.
looking down from a high mountain, one can see all directions.
어디나 형이 축사장 통화치긴스.
And thinking, I will become just like this, as someone that can see all directions.
니마 트림지 맞에 싸워진 곳 지기 좁인스.
And from today onwards, I will start a new life.
소소 명된 뭐네.
And then, like calling oneself, whatever name one might have,
쭉잡스.
and saying, you know, whatever one name is saying, oh, please make an effort.
나 두남대 야선 휴차가 말했어.
I will never, ever give up.
니가 가른 동네 시대 그랬어. 레터 그랬어.
Whatever I have to do, I can do it, and I will face any hardship.
소소 심죽발 그래.
To really encourage oneself.
항상 개침벌에.
This is extremely important.
정말 기분 영화죠.
And I really pray for all of you to have happiness.
정주선 저런 뭐제 마제바는 제제제 제바냐바 메바 양고네 고네 메바쇼 돈이 다바른 뭐제 마제바는 제제 제바냐바 메바 양고네 고네 메바쇼 답대제베 고초선지라 조그르 돈라자지 제바다면 된다베제나 티바 그뭐제제 버선도지 라지데 양된데죠 파마스체 담지데다는 예제 로던제 따도만 자주선 bakkan다서 대다군이 뭐는 저게 템베다고 또 바샤자 말은 빼면 전에 아티셔 로상자바 자리 남아서 예매되게 전화 주고 예모되는 천절에 예매권이 되지 현재 따되게 공쇼선지 다시셔. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Please take care.
Thank you.
Yeah, 맞다. Then you have some.
Thank you.
야, 맞다. 터치나 빼가고 정성.
Thank you, Marta. I had a very good time. I was very happy.